Hi everyone, we're going to sketch the graph of this polynomial, and we're going to determine the degree. Since this polynomial f of x is not in standard form, I'm merely just going to add my exponents here. So I'm going to add 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. And that is an odd number. Also know my lead coefficient is negative. And we're going to talk about end behavior in just a minute. The y-intercept is when x is 0. What is your y? So let's just plug in 0 for our x. And that's just going to give us 0. And for our zeros, or our x-intercepts, that's when y is 0. So plug in 0 here. So this piece will be 0. This factor here, that's negative 3 plus 3 is 0. And for here, that's 2 minus 2 is 0. So let's plug that in, or write this down. 0, comma 0, negative 3, comma 0, and 2, comma 0. And this is multiplicity 1, all of them. That means it can cross the x-axis. Our maximum turning point is n minus 1, which is 3 minus 1, which equals 2. All right. And this last bit we're going to do after we graph, where y is negative and y is positive. We're going to look at the graph and write down those intervals. So let's go back to end behavior and talk about that before we start our graph. So we have an odd degree and a negative lead coefficient. So odd and negative is right here in this area. And it resembles, or the graph comparison is y equals negative x cubed. So you draw that, just sketch it. What we're really looking for is our end behavior here, these tips here. So when we graph ours, we're going to start in as we graph from left to right, we're going to start in quadrant 2 and end in quadrant 4. And that means that we're going to look at our part right here. If you look at quadrant 2, that is going to be negative, positive, and quadrant 4 is positive, negative. And all that means is x gets larger and larger from 0, our x values. My y values actually get smaller and smaller from 0. So that puts us in quadrant 4 here. Now for this piece, as x gets from 0, gets smaller and smaller, my y values actually get larger and larger. All right? And this just means x is positive, y is negative. That's going to be quadrant 4. And for this one, x is negative, y is positive. That's quadrant 2. So we're going to start in quadrant 2 and end in quadrant 1. All right, now let's plot our zeros. We have 0, 0, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2. Now we're going to start in quadrant 2, and so we hit negative 3. Since this is a multiplicity of 1, it means I can cross. So I'm going to cross here. Now I'm not going to worry about min and max for this video. We're just sketching a graph here, even though we're on a grid. Now I'm going to, at x, the 0 part, that's multiplicity of 1. So I can cross, come up here some ways. Again, we don't care about how high or low on this. And then we go through 2. 2 we can actually cross as well, because that's an odd multiplicity. So there's your graph, something like that. Now what I want to look at is that last bit, the intervals where f of x is positive and negative. So this line is y equals 0. So what we're looking at is where f of x is bigger than 0, or where y is greater than 0, and below where y is less than 0, or where f of x is less than 0. So where is it greater than 0? Right here. So if you look at the x values, that's negative infinity to negative 3. Okay, also right in here. That's from 0 to 2. And where is it negative? Below the y equals 0. That's going to be from negative 3 to 0, this portion. And also this piece, which is 2 to infinity. And we also stated we have at most 2 turning points. So we have exactly 2 turning points there. That's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.